Um, so, I'm really appreciative of my uncle speaking that way because I think it really sets a good tone. I knew that he has that ability, to really ground us and think about these things because a lot of times, in our world it's a very fast paced process, and you know it almost can be sometimes that this Western way of living looks at things as like one, two, three answer, and it doesn't operate like that, and it's easy to get caught up in the tomorrows and the yesterdays, but we have to try to stay in this present moment. So I would ask that all you that are here, be here truly now, and just be present. And our greatest teacher and our first teacher, is our beautiful Mother Earth, and she's always constantly teaching us. She's always constantly reaching out and talking to us. It's up to us to slow down so we can hear those things. And she talks in many ways. She talks in the wind, she talks in the water, she talks many things, but she's always trying to show us, always trying to guide us. And I don't think that there's anybody that I've ever met anyway that doesn't feel the immense connection to her when they're standing by that beautiful water, or they're in the forest, wherever they are in the natural world. So I wanted to, also just wanted to thank a mentor of mine and a relative of mine, Mr. Al Geddix, who's here. I'm glad to see him. We've kind of been through a lot of things for a long time, it seems, and I'm just really appreciative of all you do, Dr. Geddix, and all that you stand up for. You're an amazing man. So thank you.
And back to you.
And also, Pam, and all that you do in Peace Action. I just want to say, thank you for allowing me to come here and talk a little bit and spread a little bit of knowledge of what I've been doing and what I've been working on about this concept. Excuse me, of rights of nature is a very old concept, and it's been around for a very, very long time. And they've kind of made it new again, I guess, in a sense, or at least it's starting to be new again. And for us Indigenous people, we've had this concept for a very long time, and it's recognizing a little bit. My uncle alluded to that of the environment around us and how it's alive and how we see things, and our worldviews, are so important when it comes to your environment. Our people have been amazing at adapting and living in this environment for a long, long, long time. I'm always amazed that when you see 1,200-year-old garden beds that are still intact, and you understand that, like, the time that they were, growing food and our people were growing food was a time almost similar to what we're in now in terms of climate change, if not more, with the drastic change in climate and things, and yet they were still doing that. So I'm always appreciative of that. But the rights of nature, I'm not gonna, I had a PowerPoint, but I'm not gonna really get into that too much. I kind of wanted to just share with you a little bit of some of the things that the rights of nature are. And I guess it's defined right now because it is very new. There's not a lot of laws, and there's not a lot of judicial history with the rights of nature. But basically, one of the ways to think about rights of nature is, it's the recognition by legislation or a court decision of legal rights of nature, species, or ecosystems. That also, I think, is a pretty broad term. I think that there still needs to be some sort of spiritual connection to that, because I think it's rights of nature is almost recognizing and seeing the nature, your environment, or whatever it is you're viewing as part of yourself. But some of those key elements of rights of nature laws is the recognition of nature as a living entity with legal rights, including rights to exist, regenerate, evolve, and be restored. That's definitely true when you think of some of these, like Dr. Geddix is going to be on here, I think next week, or even a couple days, to talk about the Back 40 mine, and that this potential project, is a huge sulfide mine, located, very close to the Menominee River, and that river doesn't have the ability, to defend itself, or even come into these meetings and talk about comments or whatever it could do. So somebody needs to be able to do that for them, and our people have done that for a long time. But if we had a rights of nature law, somebody could take that and take the defense of the river. Some of the enforcement provisions: people and government have the authority to enforce the legal rights on behalf of nature. It's basically what I just said. And it would also be like a requirement of a remedy or for a violation of legal rights, including a requirement of restoration. So just basically meaning that, you can't come into these places like a beautiful area like the river, or a lot of our rivers, and just destroy them and then leave, and we're stuck with the aftermath, which has been the case. Excuse me. So I think anybody that's a part of any kind of environmentalism, if that's the word we want to use, or any kind of empowerment of nature, or speaking up for these things, understands that these environmental laws that are in place now are not doing it, are falling very far short of it. And they're actually designed not to protect anything, but more to allow these things to happen up to a certain point. So the existing, environmental laws, unlike the rights of nature laws, they treat nature as a non-living commodity or property without even the basic right to exist. Environmental laws authorize the use and exploitation of nature, legalizing fracking, mining, and other activities which cause climate change, species extinction, and a whole lots of other harm. I don't think that that's a new thing for us, especially people that have been in the game for a long time. I mean, you understand, when you think of the Clean Water Act, you would think like, man, now that's something that's gonna, be used to help us, and we'll have clean water, but it's not that at all. It's actually quite the opposite. And we've myself personally have been involved in the Back 40 mine for a long time, and I was a novice coming in to environmental laws, but now it's like, holy man, none of these things are designed. That the EPA isn't there to protect us or to stand on our behalf, but they're more to just do the business of the companies, and to issue permits. That's basically what they do. It isn't to stop anything. So the other thing I wanted to talk about is basically that some of the tribes in America have really been on the forefront of doing some rights of nature work, and they're putting their own sort of worldview into their governing documents of what they're doing. And I'm proud to say that our tribe, the Menominee tribe, back in 2020, put into a resolution recognizing the Menominee River as having rights. And for you that aren't familiar with who the Menominee are, or where we're from, but we're the longest living inhabitants of this area, and they call that Menominee River because of us. In our oral history, it states that we the first Menominee was birthed out of that land there by the water, by the mouth of the Menominee River. And it's a big, long, beautiful story. If I had about 6 days to tell it, I would start, but I'm not gonna start that. There's gonna be no tests after. But so the other main one that I wanted to talk about, there's been a few others. Other tribes, the Ho-Chunk tribe has moved some of their, the Ponca tribe has moved some rights of nature laws. But But the one that really intrigued me is actually one that's being challenged in court right now, and that's the White Earth band of Ojibwe Indians and Chippewa Indians. They have a law in the books called the Rights of Menomin, and they're actually suing the state of Wisconsin right now and the EPA right there, and it's kind of working its way through the process. And I think there's lots of people that are excited to see kind of what that's going to do, and how it's going to play out. And I don't think really that you can lose in that. You may not get a favorable decision, but then you at least get a point to start, and you know where, you know, what we have to do to make it stronger, and all these things. So there's lots of things there. There's a gentleman by the name of Frank Bibbo, and I'm sure some of us know who he is. He's the lead attorney on that, and they're doing amazing work right now. And I think a lot of eyes are on that. So some of the other ones I wanted to talk about was that, you know, in the US, some of the communities, you know, since 2006, there's been like 36 communities across the United States that have enacted rights of nature laws. Back in 2006, in Pennsylvania, there was a group there that adopted the first rights of nature law actually in the world. In 2017, there was one in Lafayette, Colorado. And a more recent one was in Orange County in Florida in 2020. And they adopted a rights of nature charter amendment, which was pretty awesome. And it recognized the rights of the Wikiva River and other waterways. That actually went on to a ballot there in Orange County, down in Florida. And Orange County, I believe, is one of the most populated counties in Florida. So it was pretty impressive to see that move through and get the votes that it did. I think it was a really high number that people voted for in favor of it. And that was brought from a group of people that were concerned about a developer who was going to put in some, I think, condominiums along a waterway, and like this whole ecosystem was going to be destroyed. So they stepped up and really did a lot there. And there's still some things that are working on that. So some of the other tribes are like the Yurok tribe. Back in 2019, they recognized the rights of the Klamath River. Nez Perce tribe back in 2020 recognized the rights of the Snake River. I'm sure some of you guys heard some of the rights of nature work that's been done in Ecuador. They were the first country to enshrine the rights of nature in a national constitution, which is a big deal. There's others, you know, in Bolivia in 2010, they adopted a national rights of Mother Earth law. In 2014, New Zealand adopted the, I forget how to say the act, but it's negotiated settlement with indigenous people, which recognizes a former national park as having legal recognition in its own right. And there's, you know, a bunch more things that have happened here in the around the world, and there's lots of things that are happening now. So I see some of the folks that are here that we gathered in Green Lake. I think it was last week. To talk about rights of nature and getting concerned people that wanted to maybe think of some of the things that we could do. We ended up watching a documentary that I would suggest to you guys. It's called The Invisible Hand. And it's a rights of nature documentary. Kind of really illustrates what has been done, what can be done. Like I said before, there's still a really big field in this, and there's lots of opportunity there. But one of my passions is, and maybe, well, it's going to be out there now, but this is kind of a secret agenda, if anything, if there is one. But back in, I don't know, a couple of years ago, there used to be a mining moratorium, which was a prove it first law, which was one of the most amazing laws, you know, in the country. And basically what that law said was that you have to, for any kind of mining company that, or extraction company that wants to to do a project here in Wisconsin, they have to demonstrate that they've done that somewhere else in another country for 10 years and it didn't pollute, which basically, kills any kind of mining, because you just can't do that. They can't not pollute their environment. I like the fact that it puts the emphasis on the person getting the permit, right? So that law actually got rescinded relatively quickly, and I'm sure there's a few of us here. I know Dr. Geddix and I attended all those hearings, and it was so frustrating just going through that whole thing and then watching that law go away. I was, secret agenda hoping that, rights of nature could be a side door to something like that again. And what was really beautiful about the Prove It First law is it was done, in collaboration with indigenous activists and spiritual leaders, community leaders, and also non-natives that came together and banded together and got it done. Believe it or not, Scott Walker signed on to that Prove It First law when it first came around. So unfortunately, I don't even like to use his name, but I'll use his name. Tom Tiffany, as known as Toxic Tom, who's now our senator, was our District 12 rep, actually rescinded that law. He had a real shady way of doing it too. He moved it all around the state of Wisconsin, and he only gave you like 24 hours to find out where it was, and it was just horrific. But I know that Minnesota right now is working on that as well. There's a group there that's pushing that, very similar, almost the same thing what we had here through their legislature. So I'm hoping that someday we can pick that up, and if it's through this beautiful rights of nature work, then it is. That's the way we go forward. I don't really have too much more. I could probably go talk forever on this, but another really strong thing I'm trying to do is make sure that our tribes are leading the way, making sure our tribes' worldviews are really, getting put into governing documents. There's lots of work around there, and in the group that met in Green Lake, we had one meeting come out there with a lot of fire, and we're going to have another meeting. I don't remember the dates right now, but I'll put up my contact information in the chat if you're interested in anything like that, of what we're doing. But I'd like to thank everybody for being here tonight, and I don't know if we're going to do questions or not, but
okay, we could take some questions. Anybody? We'll start with the people online, and then Jim.
Yeah, thank you for that moving presentation, very spiritual presentation. I just wanted to ask you to address an issue that I teach in court in MATC. I teach something called ecological economics in MATC, and ecological economics is based on the idea that the planet is finite, and as man's economy grows, nature has to shrink, because there's only because the planet is finite. And let me just say that the driving forces for the growth of the economy are population growth, which is now at 8 billion on the planet, is scheduled to go to about 11 billion by the turn of the century, and more consumption by each person. So if you can comment on the idea that economic growth at some point can be harmful, because when it occurs, it destroys nature. Can you say something about the good or the bad of continuous economic growth?
yeah, and I'm sure there's others here that could chime into that for sure. I think the one of the most dirty words in capitalism that you could ever hear is the word enough. It always seems like there's never enough, of this and enough of that, and this sort of lifestyle of constantly needing something, or constantly being fed these things has really got us to where we are today, and we're at the brink of some major climate action here, and if you look at the system that's in place, it hasn't benefited all of us. Obviously, it's benefited a small few, And I think it's long overdue that we start to look to our indigenous relatives and understand the way in which they seen the world, they viewed the world, and how they operated. I think those answers to where do we go from here are not only just in the indigenous minds and hearts, but I believe it's all in all of our people's minds or hearts. But it isn't going to happen if we continue to see, Mother Nature as a commodity, or you see it as a property, or you see it as something that you have dominion over. I feel like if we continue to not understand that this beautiful earth of ours is us, it's made up. I'm made up of the same things, and I come from it. I think you get a different worldview. I see my uncle here has his hand up, so I want to pass that over to him.
I'm just going to do 4 short things, and believe me, they're short. One is we need to talk about this, and I checked in because of the nuclear energy piece, and there was a Menominee who spoke eloquently, who has since passed on, and his nickname was Sparky Waka. You might remember his name, for those of you that have been in this for a long time. He's in the, I think, Department of Natural Resources Hall of Fame as a champion for Wisconsin and our planet. And as we are losing, if not most of our World War II veterans like him, because we do have veterans yet that can speak to what it looks like after a nuclear holocaust. And Sparky was quite clear what Nagasaki looked like as a young man in the United States Marines, and what it was like to go in there as a person who grew up in the forests of Menominee, to see all that was left was a vaporized shadow of a person or a child against a wall. And I think facts, as we found out, don't matter a whole lot to a lot of people, but story does. And those who have direct experience with the horrors of nuclear power, I think, and we can all attest to that. We have a proxy war going on in Europe, where nuclear power plants are held as hostage. And now we have power stations in the United States being sabotaged by our own citizens. So that's the one point I wanted to say, is that we need to put story to this. The second thing is, when it comes to that continuous economic growth, Menominee Nation is a place to go for your class, because there is a story of sustained yield and selective harvesting that stands as a visual and living reminder of what happens when, as opposed to a capitalist economy that sees something and only sees money. And by that, I mean Menominee people seeing the laying waste of our great state of Wisconsin by those who would clear cut all of the trees. There was an indigenous answer that came there. And seeing that continuous economic growth, knowing that economic growth mattered for Menominee Nation, their model wasn't one of just taking. It was also sustaining, and it was also selective what was done. I think that the really smart part of this presentation, or the second part, is our nephew here is echoing the 2022 State of the Tribes address by President Shannon Halsey of the Stockbridge-Muncie community, when she had the Wisconsin legislature, the governor, and our Supreme Court in front of her. And I remember her speaking in the middle of her speech about the rights of nature. And when she said it, there was a complete silence in the hall. I was the only one that clapped, and I clapped at once because I thought everybody would be there with me. But nobody did, and everybody looked. It's still on tape, there's that big noise coming from the gallery. And everybody looked up, but I think what was surprising to me was that even indigenous people don't know about that rights of nature argument, where it's done and how it's done. So I think even though we may think we know about it, more must be done, more must be talked about, and that conversation needs to enter into it because we can't do much if we're not aware of it. Now, the last thing I'd like to say is this is an inflection point for us as Native people. We had a person named Madwewadanabun Benesi, and I talk about him in just a moment. He was our Grand Chief of our Three Fires Lodge, passed on about a year and in a month or so now, and he often would speak about this concept that you constantly hear, and that is of 7 generations. We need to remind ourselves that within the confines of that prophecy, we are in the 8th generation, and that those who comprise that 7th generation, which is all of you on this presentation right now, that there would be a fork in the road that would be plainly seen by humans, not just by natives, but plainly seen. And the paths would be clearly set out. And one was quite dangerous and very well the end of us. And the other path, a bit more difficult, but was about the preservation of life. And we have in front of us that historical moment. And it's not to say that our generation is more important than others that have come before or after. It just means within the cycle of our prophecy, that in that 7th, these are the things we need to be addressing. So I thank everybody for your time. I'm sure I took up lots more stuff, but it was good to hear that and a good reminder to hear those words myself. Thank you.
I see Jill trying to talk, maybe about line 5.
Actually, about am I muted? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I just wanted to let Guy know that I was arrested 3 times at line 3 in Minnesota. And the last time that I was arrested, I was seriously injured by the arresting sheriff. And I have court coming up. I refused any plea bargains, and I am have a 2 or 3 day jury trial coming up in March. And the judge has just approved my doing the necessity defense. And that's huge because my last arrest was on the headwaters of the Mississippi River. So in that the Mississippi River goes through 10 states, beginning at the top of our country, dumping into the Gulf, that's an issue of national concern, you know, a global concern. And everything that the indigenous community said was going to happen if they put this pipeline, you know, under the Mississippi River and in these sensitive watersheds happened. And in the year after, I mean, there's been numerous aquifer bursts, frack outs that Enbridge cannot even fix. They're not even fixable. So I have a very, very strong case, and I'm very grateful that I have you know, Winona LaDuke behind me and Honor the Earth. And so what we're hoping is to really get this out to the people, because this isn't about me. This is about, you know, giving a reprieve to our Mother Earth and her sacred waters, you know. And that's, you know, my prayer is to put Enbridge out of business, deport them, get them out of here. You know, they have no place here because, you know, some of you know this, others of you don't. The oil in this pipeline belongs to Enbridge and to Canada. We get none of it. It's just taking a shortcut through our pristine lands and waters and going back to Canada, Sarnia, Canada, for export. And now, yes, Pam, line 5. And now, even after all the damage that they've caused in Minnesota, they want to come through Wisconsin and do the same thing. And so I just wanted to let people know that that's going to be coming up. And the more attention that we can bring to that, you know, this is all about, to me, the rights of nature. This is, it is obscene. It is violence. You know, anybody who's been at the rivers or at the waterways, you know, and seen, you know, how they do this. It's, you know, I don't think there's a water protector that doesn't have PTSD, even if you weren't arrested. Just seeing and feeling, you know, the violence, you know, when they take these horizontal directional drills and shove them into our Mother Earth and under the waters, and you feel the earth tremble, you know, like it's like there's an earthquake. And so this is just real personal to me as well. It's not about me, and it's about the fact that I think our case is really strong. And with, you know, with the awareness of the more people are aware of it and can let others know it's going to be happening, it's a big deal. My arrest, that last arrest at the Mississippi, if you go on YouTube, you can find it on YouTube. Somewhere at this point between 3 and 5 million people saw that arrest, and people from all over the world. And so that's another thing to bring attention to this, is that there's already millions of people who saw it and are outraged that can be tapped into. So
Thank you, Jill. Thanks, Jill. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, well, maybe we can get a webinar with you speaking one time, okay?
Sure.
Right, we'll have one about the pipelines, for sure. I just wanted to give Al Geddix a little bit of time to talk to about his, you know, what's going on with the Back 40 and the Goro, the gold, whatever that mining company is. Could you just give us a little update, Al?
Yes, the original proposal for the Back 40 was promoted by a company called Aquila Resources. Because of the combined legal challenges by the Menominee tribe and by the Coalition to Save the Menominee River, the wetland permit for that project was overturned by an administrative court in Michigan because it did not disclose all the impacts of the mine on wetlands. And once that decision came down, all the other permits that had been provisionally granted became invalid because the information that was in those permits was already incorporated into the wetland permit, and the judge declared that information was inadequate and fraudulent in some cases. So all the permits essentially became overturned. And when that happened, Aquila wanted to restart the permit process, but it couldn't get the financing for the project, despite the fact that they made an offer to sell the project to 30 other companies. None of the companies would buy into the project because of all the opposition. The only company that agreed to take over where Aquila left off was a corporation out of Denver called Gold Resource Corporation, or Goro. When they sold, or when they communicated the sale to their investors, to their shareholders, they told their shareholders that the previous owner, Aquila, had already gained all the permits for the project, which was a bald-faced lie. They also told the shareholders that getting new permits would be an easy series of steps. What we have now is a situation where the company, after telling its investors that this would be an easy permit, they missed their deadline of submitting new permits last year. They don't know when their new permits are going to be submitted, but they are still having trouble raising sufficient capital to go through the permit process and convince investors that this is a worthwhile project.
All right.
All right, thank you, Al. And tell us when you're, I did send out a little attachment about your Zoom that's coming up. Could you just,
Yes, I'll be doing a full disclosure of all of the details about the Back 40 project, both the past history and the present impasse tomorrow night at 6:30. And that is being broadcast by the Clean Water Action Council of Green Bay over a Zoom meeting format. So if you want to sign up, go to the Clean Water Action Council of Wisconsin, located in Green Bay, and get the contact information for the Zoom.
it'll be on our website too, peaceactionwisconsin.org. Okay, thanks, Al. I guess we're kind of, I want to get to the next part of our presentation, and we really appreciate you being on here, Mark and Al, along with Anahkwet. Thank you so much. I'd like to introduce now, let me get to this view if he's still here. Bill Christopherson from Veterans for Peace. We have an exciting project that's coming up around Labor Day. I don't know if he's available. Are you? Yes, here he is. Okay, can you show yourself?
Yes, I hope you can hear me. I'm not trying to be incognito, but since the last update on my computer, I don't seem to be on camera anymore.
It's
Am I
okay.
coming through? Is the audio working okay?
Yes.
Okay. We're excited to share the news, if you haven't heard it already, that the Golden Rule, which is the original peace boat that sailed in 1958 with a crew of Quakers headed for the Marshall Islands to protest nuclear testing that was happening there in the atmosphere, is coming to Milwaukee around Labor Day for a 4-day stop. The boat has a long, storied history. They did not get to the Marshall Islands. They were arrested. The boat was impounded for a while, I think. Eventually went into private hands, and in about 2010 sunk. Peace Action nationally restored the boat, and it has been sailing, first of all, up and down the West Coast, then to Hawaii, and now, starting around Labor Day, it is on a 15-month, 11,000-mile voyage called the Great Loop. They started in Stillwater, Minnesota, went down the Mississippi to the Gulf. They have now gone around to Florida, just a little 10-day side trip to Havana, and are now going to work their way up the East Coast, eventually getting to, if everything goes as planned, getting to Milwaukee on September 1st, which is Labor Day weekend, and they'll be here for 4 days. And it's a project it's a national project at Veterans for Peace. We're hosting it locally with the help of a lot of sponsors, including Peace Action, which signed on right away. We're in the process of figuring out what that 4-day schedule is going to be like, but we wanted to include a lot of public events, school visits, churches, opportunities for people to tour the boat, get some boat rides, a whole variety of things. And also everywhere they've gone, of course, it has generated phenomenal amounts of publicity and news media attention, where they talk about nuclear disarmament and a nuclear-free world, and not just limited to nuclear weapons. I'm going to put a link up on the chat here for you. We are following the voyage now, and we've been meeting once a month with Helen Jacquard, who is the coordinator of the project, to sort of start to plan what's going to happen in Milwaukee. If you have suggestions, if you if you have an organization or a church or a school that you would like to suggest that you think would be interested in having somebody from the crew or Peace Action or Veterans for Peace come and talk about this in advance or while they're here, let us know that, please. We're sharing things on Facebook. So is Pam. Peace Action is following along with this too. So you'll have lots of opportunities, I think, to know what's going on. I'm going to send that link right now while I'm still thinking about it.
And we'll be putting something up on Peace Action website as it gets closer. And maybe Mark would be interested. They're going to offer rides on the sailboat. Maybe the kids from the Indian Community School would like to. So we'll be contacting you about more information on that. Get the kids out there on the sailboat.
Yes, anybody who has an idea, you know, we're lucky. We have 4 whole days with them. It is over the holiday weekend. One of the things we're hoping to do is have them at or somewhere near Labor Fest going on at the Summerfest grounds on Labor Day itself. And we're still looking at exactly what other locations and what things will happen. But please, if you have any ideas, let us know and plan to participate in this in any way you can. There's already a lot of excitement about it. We think it would be a great chance to reach a lot of people to talk about these issues that we don't normally reach. We won't just be preaching to the choir this time.
Thanks, Bill. We have one more veteran speaking to us.
Yeah, so that'd be me over here.
Can you come up here so the people on Zoom can see you?
So first,
This is Jacob.
oh yeah,
He's our organizer for Peace Action Wisconsin. Here we go.
so first off, we have bookshop.org affiliate link. So there's plenty of great books about Indigenous people on there, as well as anti-war books, history novels, and anti-racist books and other such things. So it's a great way to check out stuff. So yeah, another big thing is that we have on one of the shops associated with that is Milwaukee for Palestine. Is actually organizing water or a BDS around water rights in Milwaukee, because apparently the Israelis have heavily invested in our water here.
No.
So yeah, so if you want to get involved locally with the water rights here, this is a great way. Their email address is Milwaukee4 Palestine at Gmail. The email is also on the back of these flyers here, and also you can check out some great Palestinian and Gazan writers and historians about Palestine and stuff like that. So I have these up here, and that's all I got to say about that.
Thank you. And you can look on our website. We have a bookshop button there, and you can order books there. And we keep adding more books. And email me, or you can. I think you can make suggestions when you go to the link.
Only me and Pam at the moment can make suggestions, but if you just email me or Pam, we'll put it on there, or Peace Action info, like.
Yeah, you can email info@Peace Action, and we'll put the books on there. We have Winona Duke's book about the water protectors on there.
And a lot of other Native American books as well.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. All right. Anybody else have announcements? And pretty soon I'm going to put on the videos. So anybody have anything they want to add?
Well, Pam, could you just announce the End the Wars meeting on Wednesday at 7?
Sure. Tomorrow we're going to have an End the Wars committee or coalition actually meeting.
Wednesday.
I mean Wednesday. Sorry, Wednesday. The 25th. We'll be having the End the Wars coalition. Everybody's invited. We'll have the link up on the website. I will put it on our calendar. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Jim. And all right. And let me see if I can figure out how to share my screen and get this.
Pam?
Yes, go ahead.
Hey, Pam. Hey, everyone.
Yes, make an announcement, Tim.
Thank you. We're partnering up with a lot of great Wisconsin justice groups, including Wisconsin Voices and their partners, the NAACP. The list goes on. There's just a lot of great groups, including Peace Action. we're doing 8 weeks of candidate forums. We believe that one of the most important things we can do in the next 2.5 months is to make sure that the Supreme Court race is really bringing people out voting. So we're going to 8 different communities around Wisconsin, starting in Milwaukee on February the 11th. We'll be at Turner Hall for candidate forum that Saturday at 1 o'clock. And then we'll be moving on to 7 other communities around the state with the Unity Mobile leading the way. Encourage you all to come out and join us on February 11th at Turner Hall, 1 p.m. And I can paste a little informational link in the chat after I stop talking. Thanks, Pam.
Thank you. And there's information on our website. Just go right to the website and scroll down in the calendar and you'll find the information. Okay, any other announcements? Okay, let's see if we can get to this. Do you see what we're seeing? A YouTube? I'm afraid they aren't. I think I have to do this other one. All right, I have to do it again. Share this screen.
Figure it out real quick. You got it.
It was peaceful. It was our home. And we used to have farming down here and up that way.
And I used to play in that perennial stream.
The sheep, the cows, and the horses, they all drink from there.
Nobody told us not to.
The Navajo tribe. I wonder if they had any idea what was going to happen here.
For over 40 years, this Navajo community in Church Rock, New Mexico, has been living with a toxic legacy. The mining industry poisoned their water, soil, and air, abandoned hundreds of uranium mines, and turned its back on the biggest radioactive spill in U.S. history.
Let's go back here. Of course, you see the pile right there, that big one that looks like a mesa or a hill.
This isn't a natural hill. It's a pile of uranium mining waste, a remnant of the industry that started here during World War II.
On the New Mexico desert, Allied scientists unleashed its stupendous power.
In the early 1940s, the U.S. developed top-secret plans to build an atomic bomb.
The greatest secret of the war.
And for that, they needed a steady domestic source of a radioactive substance called uranium. From World War II through the Cold War, the U.S. incentivized uranium mining to build up domestic nuclear power. By the 1950s, there was a uranium boom in the Southwest. Navajo Nation, the largest Native American territory in the U.S., sits right in the middle, and it was quickly swept into the uranium mining industry.
Vast deposits of uranium have been discovered in the Navajo Hills.
The U.S. government hired private mining companies that often leased land without compensating Navajo Nation fairly. But the tribal government let them in because it offered the prospect of economic growth and jobs for its residents. By the 1950s, there were 750 mines in the area, employing thousands of people from Navajo Nation. This area, along Redwater Pond Road, eventually became one of those hotspots, with 2 big mining operations setting up shop here.
The only job that was really available in our area was the mines, and I got a job there in October of 1975 as a surface laborer.
As a single parent, I had to find a job, and they gave me a job as a probe technician.
Mining jobs for Native Americans were often on the front lines, building the mines, blasting, digging, and transporting the yellow uranium ore. But what they didn't know at the time was that decades earlier, studies had already linked uranium mining to lung cancer.
Many radon daughters are retained in the lungs.
And the importance of protecting mine workers from radioactivity was well documented.
It is necessary to have fans capable of providing plenty of fresh air to all.
Yet, many Navajo workers say they had little protective gear, no ventilation in the mines, and no warning of how hazardous uranium could be to their health.
I was breathing in dust, mine dust, all that uranium dust.
That smell from the explosives, you could smell it coming down and give you a headache.
By the 1960s, cases of lung cancer started appearing in Navajo Nation, where the disease had been nearly non-existent. And it wasn't just the mine workers. Residents near Redwater Pond Road, sandwiched between those two mines, eventually started to get sick too.
We're right here. And so you can see Kerr-McGee area, and then of course UNC. And these are the local people that have homes in the area. People, children especially, getting sick with asthma problems. Then people were having cancer.
We didn't know about the radiation.
That changed in the summer of 1979. UNC stored its toxic uranium waste in a pond nearby. The site was called a tailings pond, which held several 100 million gallons of radioactive sludge, or tailings. Early on July 16th, the dam on the pond broke, letting out over 1,000 tons of uranium tailings and millions of gallons of wastewater into the Rio Puerco. It was a creek bed locally known as the Perky that was often used as a source of drinking water for locals and livestock.
I started hearing people talking. Did you see that? Did you see the mills? Did you see the dam? I looked in that direction, and sure enough, there was a huge break.
There was crowds of people out there, but never really knowing, that 94 million gallons of contaminated waste had just gone down the Perky.
Biting, bitter cold temperatures are putting refugees in danger. How will they endure the harsh winter months? Many fled their homes with little more than the clothes on their back.
The Puerco was radioactive. One government report showed radioactivity levels in the Puerco at over 1,000 times what's allowed in drinking water. But at the time of the spill, newspapers characterized the area as sparsely populated, and that the spill presents no immediate health hazard. Many Navajo residents in a community of about 100 said they weren't warned about using the river or about the spill until several days later. For the mining company, there had been warning signs. An Army Corps of Engineers report showed that cracking was identified by the company in 1978, the year before the spill. The UNC also knew the dam did not incorporate all the necessary protective measures. After the spill, the company and federal agencies like the Environmental Protection Agency evaded responsibility, and just 1% of the solid radioactive waste was cleaned up within 3 months of the spill. This was a stark comparison to the US response to another nuclear accident, which happened less than 4 months before the Church Rock spill. It was the partial meltdown at the 3 Mile Island nuclear reactor in Pennsylvania. After the accident, President Carter visited the site. Cleanup began quickly, and those affected in the nearby, largely white community were compensated by the plant. Back in Church Rock, where the spill released 3 times as much radiation as 3 Mile Island, the residents were barely compensated. And the largest radioactive spill in US history was overlooked.
Over here, we're treated like a third world. It's not cleaned up. It's still here. It's been here 40 years.
They don't see us as human beings. We're disposable.
While there still hasn't been a comprehensive health study done in the area, there is a clearer picture of the effects of uranium mining in Navajo Nation. Various studies have linked mining areas in Navajo Nation to higher rates of cancer, kidney and cardiovascular disease, and birth defects.
I got lymphoma in my immune system. And for me, somehow it became double whammy for it. I lived there and I worked there.
I am certain that we drank contaminated water all our lives from the very beginning. The mine spill did not only happen on that one day, July 16th. It began way back in the early 60s because they were releasing all this untreated mine water. It flowed 24/7 and on into the Perco.
In Navajo, they say "besi kai," meaning we literally walked in it, you know. These companies coming in and taking the raw resources, for them, it's like money, 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 you know. They're taking and at the sacrifice of people. People died, sacrificed their life.
In the 1980s, as demand for nuclear energy declined, the mines shut down. Today, there are more than 500 abandoned sites, many surrounded by massive piles of uranium waste. For decades, residents like Edith have been fighting to get them removed. She helped form an organization called the Redwater Pond Road Community.
This was our very first banner. We left it up there and we just didn't take it down. And then, of course, Letso Doda means no uranium.
She helped with the community's own research.
Back in 2005, around that time, this is what we came up with when we decided to butcher sheep. We opened it up, but the fat was like yellow.
She spoke at multiple government hearings.
We want clean water and clean air for our precious children and grandchildren so that they will have the same opportunity to once again play in the meadows and canyons of my childhood. Thank you.
Eventually, the EPA and the mining company, now owned by General Electric, committed to a cleanup plan. But there was a catch. It could take at least 7 more years to clear the radioactive waste at the mine. As for the Puerco, they never presented a cleanup plan for the water. In the meantime, the EPA wants the residents of Redwater Pond Road to move to the nearby city of Gallup, which means they would have to live outside of Navajo Nation and adjust to an entirely different way of life.
That's like the Trail of Tears. It's like the long walk. Indian people are being removed and Indian people are being uprooted, and to me, that's genocide.
The residents of Redwater Pond Road have another solution, a plan to create an off-grid, solar-powered community in a nearby mesa.
And this is a site where we were hoping that we would move everybody, but it hasn't happened.
Navajo Tribal Utility Authority said it's going to cost too much money to run a power line up there.
Without a better solution, dozens of people have already taken the offer to voluntarily relocate. But for now, Edith and a handful of her neighbors are staying put and continuing the long fight for their home.
They just came in, tore up the place, and left that contamination behind. And they really don't want to do anything about it. They don't care, the government doesn't care. But we have connections with the land, and we have, stories of where we're from. We still live here. We still call this place home.
Ane kan jang bari jang kang ada ranger mine bari kang uri kamet ko bol bi ka wan bari wade bom ane ban bom baware mi wan boy at man makari bek ka kari anyel ware mi
We're so very pleased to have the family visit today and start the repair of country and reconnect to country through the planting of some trees in this very first area that we've rehabilitated.
I think you are already doing a good job planting those plants. And my dad footprint walk around here and then show the place like when there was start a long time ago. And I'm here, the daughter one now. I have dad like I had before. I'm here. I'm sorry I just cried when dad was walking around here. But I thank him I came here to see. They're very important for me and my people.
My country up here, well, I took over when my father died. That's why it's my country. I got the son can take over. I got daughter. I got 5 daughters and 2 boys. They can take over when I die. We like the land to stay, you know, for register our lives. You know? We like it. That's why we try to get the land back.
But the mining company was pushing hard, and then other people too. He tried, nothing would happen, like nobody. But some of them people, like they want the mining, all that. But he tried. Then we're struggling so hard. Yeah, get this, all the trees back together.
Yeah.
It's really sad for us.
The way things were done in the past were very wrong, and we don't want that to ever happen again. And we're sorry that those things did happen in the past. But we know how important country is to Mirarr, and we are, every one of us, want to see this done well and repaired and restored to how this country should be. This is the beginning to make things right.
Anahkwet and bikini, sparkling necklaces of coral reef, studded with tiny islands in the mid-Pacific Ocean, are remembered largely because of bombs, 50 nuclear tests in 12 years.
I don't know why it's in Japanese, sorry.
Ilanga puebenado yenrotoroar.
Ay, inay puebenado sirit.
And they will give us the reports. And I says, well, you know, it's safe
It's livable. As long as you don't go into the bush, as long as you don't drink the coconut, as long as your kids don't spend too many hours here and there.
My name is Shiro Mark. I'm from Kili.
Elaine, Billy, the one, John Romalak.
Elaine, Jacob Chuk. Matujan Island in
My name is Alson Kellen, and I'm from Bikini Atoll.
Ini Jim Jonah, kami punya lakon low meneo kami bar riana lagi par tarin lain kami aja di situ kami bar dan punya tarin lain kami jam jalan tak kami kemalak elang langkok kami lawan ya lu dan unimin akan jadi tak akan ada iya lu mengaku kini Enang pora kami doi akan jadi tak bukan ini aku tahu orang lagi lagi ijab jalan setelah itu ijab jalan pagi kemudian ya lalu awal aku perlu nomor kata kororo kata itu berapa matanjuan army bercikin banyak jaya itu palu ini imiar kelongan kan itu cikin ah karena kelongan pajak ini baru army jorong ini ketar perwan wan tarin ayo itu banyak turunnya jangan akan yang kelongan pajak
Kini terima celok alam lah, orang celok lagi man. Minuri orang ajurong jagot bawa natuin. Ankar war itu min nu jilo yon, jangan kuilo.
Tidak.
Yang malam lu juga dalam mana tahu. Minin, ibu jaga icap, minin pang. Yang kita ini terus paham ada, ibu dah cuma tu,
And I am actually from Bikini Atoll. I was born on Kwajalein. In 1968, the American told the Bikinian that Bikini was safe and clean for the people to go back to. So in 1974, I actually was one of those kids playing on the long, white, sandy beaches of Bikini Atoll. So my parents, we moved to Bikini. And then in 1970, they said, whoops, sorry. It's actually a little bit more radiated than we thought.
Itu tu je nak. Ini ni roji Kevin di. Jangan jauh dia. Dia ini kumpulan untuk kumpulan aku tak. Yang berpuluh kening banyak jauh mama, banyak jauh papa, lalu menjadi roji, jangan kami menjadi bang. Yo alam dia, yang menjadi teror, cilu kata, alam menjadi teror. Menjadi teror. Awal ini meratin jono, ini jono ini lari miya, awal kelai. Tanah ke, jono yang sampai. Ini tanah. Aku jadi dah orang dengan ni, kue sibang itu.
Ciri kota agal jaga pernah tu ni, kin ni, pop, terkangi nama. terkanjin kayu. Ilingin air kakamel-mel. Ilugun nana kunin. Kita kan boba kiyo raboyin jabal ma. Kita kan ni jabal ragbo raboy macet cibi.
Kenapa cakapnya ini juga cuan ada nabe dulu kai. Kemudian tukun, yukumu juga ada kebetulan kan cawal. Ada kan pama army tinggal di rakai juga wawun dulu. Kalau tukun sangat viral promo, itu kan jam sangat jalan menyerang.
While we were there, they would come back. They would come back to bikini and did testing and see how high the radiation was in our body. So looking back, I said that they were doing some radiation studies, radiation effect on human being. So that's where I'm from. That's where my mother's from, and both my mom and dad died. They both passed away died of cancer.
It would depend on kaman magamag. It would depend on kaman it. Ay nani ni kalon. Yang ni naman mangin ako. Yang rahan Auro diniyak yang rahan. Lepas nang away. Ngayon jalok kini mga kami tirara wa ini. Kami mga it elang renin ini dengan an. Sini nganair. Kamandanin dito year balan mga agili.
Una namin maulilo, ilungin bilang kinahan karculok kajan mga, way alam karkaya na balik. Paano din niya ngikimikit berloje, inangor, awal, kinat puli, auro yawan ik, paano din dit kimik mga.
Well, fish is our life. We're ocean people. We have very limited piece of land. So anything, I think that's one of the main source of life in the Marshalls is the fish. A lot of our legends and chants are always about the fish, and it even symbolizes in our tattoos. So my tattoo here, you'll see all these little square things. It's a fish. It's called bill. So bill is a triggerfish that is mainly all bones. So traditionally, when you do the tattoo, they do the magical chant, and it's part of the tattoo. So when you go to war, these will come alive, kind of thing. So if somebody want to hit you with their spear or stick, then it won't hurt you because it's the bill, the bone of the fish is there. So it's always part of us.
This is a glimpse through the eyes that have witnessed loss, displacement, neglect, and chaos. As time changed, the situation remained the same. The tears that shed on the day of two suns are the same tears that surround our lagoon. The flakes of the fallout did not only fall into our skins, but onto our destiny. But now is the time to voice the voiceless, to wipe the tears shed over the years, and to shift the narrative. As people of great navigation who have been forcibly displaced, we must continue to look ahead and set sail. MISA for the Pacific is a student movement to bring awareness on the nuclear legacy here in the Pacific, especially the Marshall Islands, since it's our home. We stand for nuclear justice in the Pacific region, We also stand in solidarity with our partners such as Young Solwara and many other partners here in the Pacific region. Currently, we are doing a campaign called My Fish is Your Fish. This campaign, we're highlighting the importance of fish and our connectivity with the ocean here in the Pacific region. MISA for the Pacific argues that if we focus on SDG 14.1, which is land-based contamination, because if Runit Dome leaks, the Marshall Islands isn't the only place that's going to be affected, it will be the entire Pacific Ocean. So that's why our theme is My Fish is Your Fish, because the ocean is ours together.
So as ocean custodians and as concerned parents and students ourselves, we want to educate. We want to educate our peers and colleagues about the dreadful impacts of nuclear contaminants spreading in our ocean. We want to continue educating ourselves to make ensure that we're taking a role in protecting our ocean. Over the course of our stay in Suva, we've learned that not many students here in the South Pacific knew about the Marshall Islands, much less about the nuclear legacy, especially that it's also affecting them. We're connected through the ocean, and therefore it is our hope for them to know that they can also be part of this toward a nuclear-free world.
Matan kajaduru aragin ngan rain mer jojan walang takum nor lo ebe ben gain manta nganer ne chu ta galang takum pug manta kam ben gain ngaru der raar perin karongan kachung lolo jag joran gain pug chigi rain.
I think it's important to discuss it now because we are losing a lot of land. And just like the Runit Dome in Anahkwet, the more land we lose, the greater chance of it spilling out into our ocean and ruining our fish. Not just our fish, but the Pacific.
I think it's important that the youth get involved in this campaign because it really empowers not only them, but the cause. The campaign is My Fish is Your Fish, which means that we're all connected through the ocean and the fish represents who we are. And the most important part is we're fighting for nuclear justice.
My fish is your fish.
My fish is your fish.
My fish is your fish.
My fish is your fish. My fish is your fish.
My fish is your fish.
My fish is your fish.
My fish is your fish.
My fish is your fish.
My fish is your fish.
My fish is your fish.
My fish is your fish. My fish is your fish. My fish is your fish. My fish is your fish.
Nuclear and climate change are the same animal, different spelling. The same animal.
My fish is your fish.
Oh, wait, I have to turn it off. Sorry. No, wait. There we go. All right. How do we get that?
Wow, thank you for that.
Thanks. All right, I guess that is it.
Nice.
Trying to figure out how to get out of here.
Those are good videos.
Oh, here we go. Exit full screen. And we'll go back to Zoom. And it's getting late. We're going to say goodnight. Us oldies are ready to go home. Have a good night, everybody. Oh, and tune in for our next video. We didn't have time for everybody tonight. Ian Zabarte of the, what is it? The Shoshone Band wants to put on a presentation about how nuclear testing, which was the original part of this, has affected Indigenous people, but he was very busy tonight at the Sundance Film Festival, putting on a movie about called Downwinders. So please, I'll send out more information about February 8th. All right, have a good night, everybody. I'm going to end the video.
Thank you, Pam.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.